So, hi Samantha, and welcome on our podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, for those who don't know you, maybe you could start by telling us a bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Samantha Bosco. I am a paracyclist, which basically is a fancy way of saying I'm a cyclist with a disability. I started pretty young as a mountain biker and wanted to be a professional bike racer by the time I was 9 years old. Had a limb lengthening surgery at 11 years old. That didn't go quite as planned, and I ended up spending 3 years on crutches. Had over a dozen surgeries and have permanent damage to my leg now that, as a result, kind of left me feeling like I had lost that little 9-year-old dream of racing my mountain bike, and I took up rowing, rode for a little bit, ended up having knee problems when I made it to the collegiate level. I got a full athletic scholarship to a Division I school in Central Florida and rode there for 2 years before ruining my knee bad enough that I had to retire. And then I ended up getting back on a bike thanks to my dad and started racing pretty competitively road bikes, and then found out about paracycling and became a paracyclist in 2013, became part of the national team by the end of that, and have been on the team ever since.
Wow, that's awesome. So, as you say, you started biking pretty early. Can you tell us why did you start biking, and did you do other sport as well?
Well, if I remember correctly, and I don't know that I've ever asked my dad to confirm one way or another. He's never corrected me, so I just assume that's the story. But we moved when I was pretty young and still in school to a town over. And instead of getting on the bus schedule for like the last 2 weeks of school, we ended up, my dad and I, riding to and from school. He would ride with me to school, bring my bike home, and bring my bike back, and we'd ride back. And we both just kind of fell in love with riding bikes and started riding more. My mom started riding. It became a family thing where we'd ride the Coastal Trail in Alaska and just kind of fell in love with it. And then my dad found out about Arctic Bicycle Club, which is this local mountain bike club. And we started racing, and end is history.
Yeah, okay, that's fun. So, as you say, you got an athletic scholarship in the University of Central Florida. Was it always a dream of yours to play sport in college, or was it something that came up later on growing up?
I don't know that I ever dreamt of it as a collegiate athlete. I kind of skipped over college in my dreaming and just went for when I got old enough to do something that wasn't in school, and it just happened to be racing bikes. But when that kind of fell apart, I found ways to have new dreams and new things to rely on. So rowing started as a form of rehab when I got off crutches to keep the movement that I had in my ankles still there. I don't have much. I have 8 degrees flexion. And so when I started rowing, I fell in love with that, and then I started dreaming about being a collegiate athlete and getting a scholarship that way. So there's always been some sort of dream to be an athlete on some level.
Okay, so rowing just came without even thinking really about it.
Yeah, I loved doing it, and I often joke that I love to suffer, and rowing seems to be the full-on sport that hurts every part of your body.
For sure.
But when I finally got in a boat for the first time, it was almost like I found part of myself that I had lost during all of those years on crutches, because nobody really looked at my leg differently, because my leg does look different as a result of the surgeries. And they just wanted to be athletic, and we wanted to challenge each other. And so for me, it was like almost like I felt normal in a way, for lack of better words. But I just felt like old Sam again.
Okay. Maybe some freedom for you as well, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's funny because I think that regardless of the sport I've done, I feel the most powerful when I'm being athletic and challenging challenging myself and pushing my body to its limits and beyond its limits and seeing what I can do.
Okay. So, like you talk about, you row in college for 2 years and then you had to stop because of your injury. Can you tell us about this a little bit more?
Yeah, so to add backstory, I was born with a bowed tibia. So basically the bone above my ankle on the right side was curved. And at 4 years old, doctors took that part of my bone out to make it straighter. So I ended up having a right leg that was 2.5 inches shorter than the left. Did normal things. I ran on the weekends, did any kind of sport possible, procrastinated on my homework because I was being a little kid running outside and having fun. And I had surgery at 11 to lengthen it, and just the doctors, there were some complications, and as a result, my ankle's bone on bone. My right leg is still an inch shorter. I have nerve damage, severe nerve damage from my knee down on the right side, and can't really build muscle on the right side. And as a result, my right quad is like 25% as strong as my left, and my calf is even weaker. So for me, rowing was kind of like a means to have some sort of normalcy, some sort of power back, because I felt a little weak when I had surgeries. Like I felt like something was done to me that I had no control over, and kind of lost some of that childhood daydreamer in me. Okay. So I just took up rowing, and rowing just kind of seemed to fill some voids. And then I started rowing pretty consistently, and I made it a goal to get that scholarship.
Of course. And I mean, after all of this, you find your way back to cycling. So how did that happen? Like after all of this, like you went back to cycling?
Yeah, so it's funny. My dad got me back into bikes the second time too. When I retired from rowing, I spent my whole spring semester sophomore year working with a rehab specialist. And that rehab specialist and my mom both spent that whole time convincing me that I had to stop rowing because I'm stubborn and strong-willed and didn't want to give up. For me, it felt very much like I failed. Like I've always been told I could do anything, and then it was thrown in my face that I can't do everything. So for me, I kind of spiraled a little bit. Like I lost who I was. I lost my sense of identity. Okay. All my friends were rowers, and once I stopped rowing, they were like, okay, cool, you're not part of the club. So my dad kind of saw this and knew that I needed another outlet. And so he did a bunch of research, found out a way to get me on a bike that we could put shims in my cleats so that I didn't have pain in my knees or my hips, because virtually I'm the same leg length on the bike. And so he pushed me to try to go for a bike ride and just get outside and get some fresh air. And I still remember getting on my dad's bike that's too big for me and wearing his old jersey that's also too big for me and my mom's shoes, which were too small for me, but just loving the fact that I could ride my bike and loving the fact that there was still something I could do. And it was back to my first love. So it was full circle.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you talk a bit about it, how it was your dream since you were a kid to become like a professional athlete and a professional cyclist. So is that dream like went with you this whole time, or did it come back after when you started cycling again? That dream came back to you?
It came back. For a long time, I didn't think it was possible. For a long time, I didn't necessarily have a dream. And so for me, when I found out about paracycling is when it really kind of started to take off. When I got to go to Spain for the first time was when it was like, oh, this is cool. Like I could actually go travel to different countries and race my bike and do that. But it wasn't until 2016 when I was training for the Paralympics, my first Paralympics, that it hit me on a bike ride that I was living that dream I had from the beginning. Like I was traveling the world. I was racing my bike and it didn't dawn on me for 3 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you talked about it a bit, but after 3 years competing in your first paracycling race in 2013, you were selected to compete for the Team USA and at the 2016 Rio Paralympics, where you actually won 2 bronze medals. So I listened to other interviews that you've made and I understand that Paralympics was one of the best experiences of your life so far. Could you try to describe what it was like competing at that stage for the first time and obviously winning 2 medals?
I still have a hard time putting it into words, like articulating all of the feelings I had, because it's all of the feelings. Like it's the highs, it's the lows, it's the excitement, it's the nervous energy of, oh no, like I want to perform and I want to do well. And so for me, we were the first day of racing. So I didn't go to opening ceremonies. My husband got to go to opening ceremonies and then he told me about it afterwards, but I didn't get to go because I had a chance to medal in my 3K individual pursuit, and that was the first day of racing. Okay. So I made the decision to stay back at the village and make sure I got enough sleep, like calm my nerves so that I wasn't such a ball of energy that I just had this huge letdown in the morning and then didn't perform very well. And so when I got to the velodrome and I'm warming up and just trying to treat it like an everyday race, and then I walk out onto the track to get onto my bike, which is hooked up in the start gate. And then I start to realize, like, wow, I'm really here. Like, this is it. All of these people are here to watch us. And the velodrome was packed, and I've never had a packed velodrome for a race. Like, it was insanely awesome. And I'm just trying to, like, take it all in before the race, like, seconds before I'm supposed to race, trying to take in all of these feelings, like all of the people that have helped get me there, all of the people that are supporting me, all the people that are watching at home and rooting for me across the world was just mind-boggling and just so surreal. It was like I was on cloud 9, and then I heard the beeps of the countdown clock get to 10 seconds, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I should race first and then take the rest in. So that whole day was just such an experience, and I was already having a good time at the village and getting to meet all of the people there, all the spectators. Like, they were amazing. They made it so much better than it ever could have been for me. And so that whole day was a whirlwind of excitement, and I made the bronze medal round and then went back to the village to like get away from the excitement, kind of settle down before the finals, and then came back for the finals and was amped up and just went out too fast. Had about 2 seconds, maybe more at one point on my opponent, because in the 3K you basically have a person start on each side of the velodrome and try to chase each other around. So I was up on her by 2 seconds, and then I started to fade, and it just took everything in me just to keep going and thinking about all of the people that were a part of the journey, all of the people that donated even just to get me and Andrew, my husband, there so that I could have some support while I was there. It felt so good to win that first medal and to win it for me, for my country, for my coach, for everybody. So it's, to this day, it's still one of the best feelings in the world.
For sure, for sure. And then you went to won another one later during those competitions. So
yeah, I did. I was pretty lucky to come home with 2 of them.
Were you not like nervous about like going there like for the first time, and how did you deal with like the pressure maybe going there and also like participate in representing your country?
I would say that my nerves started well before the games. I was never really nervous going to a bike race, and I raced able body also. So I had a lot of racing back home and never was really nervous. And then it seemed like when the clock struck midnight, January 1st, 2016, like always nervous. Every bike race, I was just nervous because I wanted to get to trials to make the team and not get injured leading up to it. Like my goal was to make the team. So once I finally made the team, it was almost like I wasn't nervous leading into the games. Like I had done what I came to do. Whatever happened in Rio was just icing on the cake. Like I was so prepared in my training, in working with my coach, working with my sports psych. All of the boxes, I guess, were ticked off for me. So I went through processing and boarded that plane to go to Rio, just so excited to go. And now that I think about it, it's interesting because I feel like the day of, I wasn't necessarily nervous in a bad way. Like I had that excitement and anticipation of like, what could I do? But at the same time, it wasn't expected of me to have a medal on a track event. I wasn't, my strong suit was the time trial. It wasn't necessarily the track at that point. So for me, it was just like, okay, where do I stack up? And then once I made it to finals, I was like, okay, now we need to not make sure we're getting nervous. Like we need to make sure we don't get nervous here. But I felt pretty calm. Like I was confident in my ability at that point. Okay.
So you will say that because of all of that preparation that you had before, you didn't have that much pressure going there. You were just focused and ready to do you.
Yeah. I feel like for me, if I'm doing all the work I need to be doing, if I'm happy, like that's when I ride my best, is when I know without a doubt I did everything I could and I put everything into being the athlete I could be, the best athlete I could be. Then whatever happens, it was meant to happen how it was supposed to, and I can't change the outcome. I can just ride my butt off and make sure I give it everything I have. So if I don't leave the road or the track exhausted, like then I'm disappointed. I'm not disappointed if I know that I gave it my all.
Okay, for sure. So you talked a bit about it, that coming back home, you kind of lost a bit of motivation after that Paralympic Games. Was it something that you expected, or like, because it's not something that we talked about a lot about, I mean, in the news, we're going to see like a lot about like the athlete and the competition, but then once it's finished, we're not going to talk about the after the games. So was it something that you expected to felt that way?
I didn't. I had no idea. And I called my mom a few days afterwards and I told her that I was like feeling kind of sad and not sure what was going on. And my mom was like, oh yeah, they call it the post-games blues. And I'm like, Mom, why didn't you tell me about this? And she said, would you really have wanted to know before you win? So once she talked to me about it, like it made total sense that you have this high moment, such this preparation and this build up for something so extremely important to you that once it's over, you're like, oh, okay, now what? Like Like, it's now looking back on it, like I knew I should have known that it was going to happen because you can't have such big highs without some lows. And for me, it came after the games, after like, okay, now what do I do? But it's funny because it wasn't like I was going to retire after the games. I still was a cyclist. I still wanted to be a cyclist. But it was just like, oh man, that was so fun. Like, I want to do it again.
And then you have to wait 4 more years to have that feeling again. Yeah.
Exactly. Now 5.
Yeah, 5 now. But I guess you're going to be more prepared to deal with that if that happened next year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I find myself a better mindset mentally this time around. Not just for expecting the highs and lows of it, but just being more secure in who I am. I think part of the lack of motivation after Rio was more to do with who I was as a person and what I was supposed to be doing with my life, whether that be from my own personal expectations or pressure from outside sources. So I kind of started to run away from cycling, I guess, and not just have that be who I was, despite how much I loved it. And then it took a little bit, but I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I really love cycling. Like, I've always loved riding my bike. And even on days when I'm not feeling so great, if I get on a bike for 15 minutes, I end up falling in love with the ride, and then I'll ride for longer. And if I don't, then it's just a day that I should take off anyways. But it took a while for me to realize, like, you're allowed to live your life the way you want.
Yeah,
so
of course.
Once I realized, like, yeah, I love being a cyclist. There's other things I'd like to do, but this is what I want to do with my life. Then it was like, okay, let's do this. And it's been even better ever since. So I feel like for me, it's just loving the sport now. It's just riding because I love to ride my bike. I love my friends that I get to make from cycling. Like, I've made friends all over the world that I get to see at races. I get to be competitive, and then you get off the field of play, I guess, and you just have fun with it.
Of course. So you will say that you grow a lot from 2016 and these first Paralympic Games.
Oh yeah. I think that 2016 was such a good year for me because, or at least the games part of it was such a good year for me because I had a really low moment at the beginning of the year. I did an able-bodied bike race that I didn't do very well at. I didn't make it past the first stage because of a couple of reasons and kind of spiraled and felt like I didn't want to ride bikes anymore. Like, I wasn't cut out for it. And then with the help of my coach and my husband, I got through it, and my sports psych too. Like, they all helped me push past the feelings, and then I started this roller coaster ride up and just had a great rest of the year. And so Rio was like just on cloud 9, happy, excited. I was a good athlete. Like, I was ready. I was training my butt off because I wanted to do well in time trial, and it just translated to the track for me. Things just lined up. And so for me, there's definitely been a huge growth process since 16 to today. Like, I've really worked on who I am and what I want out of my life, and am really not taking any prisoners, I guess, or not listening to people who aren't a part of it and helping me and in the arena with me.
Of course, because at the end of the day, you're alone on your bike in the arena, so...
Yeah, for me, it's just... Yeah, at the end of the day, for me, it's about me on the bike. It's about what I can put into it. It's about how I can push myself to be better, to be faster, to be more mentally tough even. So every time I get on the bike, it's just... There's always a positive from it.
Of course. Okay, that's awesome. So just recently I watched this documentary called Rising Phoenix. You probably heard about it, about the Paralympics in Rio in 2016. It was such a great documentary. I love it. We watched it together. But it was one thing that I didn't know, was that they almost canceled the games because of the lack of money and financial issues. How aware were you as an athlete about the situation leading up to the games, and how did it impacted you?
So the games itself, like, there wasn't any thought in my mind that it wasn't going to happen. Like, I knew that there was struggle financially, and I knew that they had spent a bunch on the Olympic side, and there potentially wasn't going to be as much para. But for me, like, it's almost like how I'm going to Tokyo. Like, I'm just going to believe that it's going to happen, and I have faith that it happens how it should. And so it didn't necessarily affect me.
Okay.
It was nice because the nice part about it was we ended up having the opportunity to bring more athletes with us to Rio. And that was fun for me because it meant that a couple of my friends who hadn't made the team ended up getting a spot closer to the games, which was fun for me to get to watch them race too.
For sure. Okay, so that's interesting. So competing with Team USA for the past few years now, what does it mean for you to get to travel the world and represent your country, and obviously with your bike at the highest level?
I'm still taken aback by it. Like, I'll still get on a plane and not necessarily realize the significance of getting to go to the other country until I get there. Like, I've traveled enough that I have this kind of system that I'm pretty good and solid when I fly internationally. So it almost doesn't dawn on me that I'm going to a different country until I step off the plane, and all of the signs are in different languages that I'm hopefully learning a little bit of now. But it's still pretty surreal. It's still the opportunity to get to see the world. And we don't necessarily see that much of it because we do go from from the airport to the hotel, to the race venue, to the hotel, to the airport. But the beauty of being a cyclist and bringing my bike is those days off in between racing, a group of us will go and explore different parts of where we're at and get to see that. So for me, it's fun to kind of embrace the cultures when I go there. And I've been kind of fortunate in that a couple places I've gotten to stay later and explore, and South Africa was one of them. And it was an amazing, like, surreal experience, and got to go on safari and see all the animals and just get to embrace that culture too, and try some local foods. I like to go to restaurants that are off the map that locals recommend, and kind of interact with the people and try the different cuisines. But it's also given me the opportunity to have different sponsors that have come on board that almost leave me speechless, because in a way I don't necessarily see the significance it has for me, or for me to other people. Like, I don't necessarily, I'm riding my bike. Like, I just like to ride my bike. I'm just being an athlete. And so when a new sponsor comes on board, I had one recently come on board last week now. Maybe 2 weeks now. But it was pretty surreal because they sponsored me with a car, and to me, it's just, I'm just riding a bike. But but when you stop to think, like, you're also changing other people's lives. You're also representing the U.S. Like, it's so humbling that people believe in me and want to support me and want to see me do well, so that I can inspire other people and motivate others to chase their dreams. Like, that's, to me, it's not just about cycling, I guess, because I love talking to future generations and going to schools and having assemblies and talking to kids, and inspiring them to dream big and go for it. So I guess it's just nice to have people from all over the world just encourage you and cheer you on and support it.
Of course. And maybe make your bad day a bit better, thinking about all of this.
Yeah. I think for me, I want to be an inspiration. Like I love being an inspiration, regardless of what people choose to see or how they view me or being a paracyclist or me being a female athlete or anything really. Like if I can touch someone's life and make them believe in themselves because they've seen me not give up, to me that's life. Like I left a mark. I want to leave a mark. I want to represent my country. I want to win some medals and I want to go to more games. But at the end of the day, too, I want to change some lives.
Of course. And you probably already did some change in some lives. Maybe you don't know necessarily, but I'm sure you did already.
I certainly hope so. I've only really had one person that I'll never forget her and her story. And it was it was at a swimming get-together conference type deal where I was a motivational speaker, and she basically came up to me afterwards and thanked me because it kept her wanting to keep swimming. And to me, that was why I do this, why I keep doing it, and why I share my story. Because I had a hard time sharing my story and asking for help when I needed it, or saying some of the more vulnerable parts of it, the more challenging parts, until I hear that kind of thing. And then I'm like, I want to share that because somebody else was feeling that too. And if I can help them, I can't refuse. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I hope I've inspired more people. Like I really do hope that I've left marks on people. And I guess even just, oh, she has a nice smile, or she made my day because she complimented my shoes. Like, I hope so.
No, I'm sure you did, and I'm sure you're gonna continue to do it as you still didn't finish your career. So, for sure.
Thanks.
So, apart from the Paralympics, you also accomplish a lot of other things. You are the 2015 Pan Am Games Road Race Champion, the 2017 Paracycling World Champion in the 3K individual pursuit, and has won an additional 9 World Championships medal. Looking back at all of this, if you could pick one of your favorite moments, we talked a bit about like the Paralympic medals, but from your career, like which one is your favorite, or maybe if you have few?
So I have a few. I definitely think that nothing can top the 3K individual pursuit at the games, because I won it by 4,000ths of a second.
Yes,
like it went to a photo
crazy.
finish, and it was a hard fought battle, and I still can't watch replays of it. Like I still am finding myself like, go Sam, go faster. Why are you slowing down? So for me, like that medal holds a special place in my heart. And of course it was the first one, my first games, my first day of racing. Like,
of course,
it'll always be the most important medal to me. Other than that, the World Championship medal is also one. It's definitely something that every cyclist strives for, is to be a world champion. You also get a jersey with rainbow stripes. We call them rainbow stripes, but they're the 5 Olympic rings across the chest. And so it's definitely something all cyclists strive for, and something I've always thought would be cool to have also. So that's a big one. And I got to win that at the Velodrome in LA, which is my velodrome, my home velodrome. And my husband and his family got to come, and a few friends got to come. So it was a chance for people to actually see it happen.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was super fun. And then the 2015 Pan Am's road race gold medal is also up there. I think those are my top three. That one was significant because that year was a hard year for me. I got hit by a car on a training ride. Thankfully, the car wasn't going too fast so that I didn't suffer any broken bones, but I had suffered a concussion that left me with vestibular rehab and off the bike for some time. And I spent, I want to say, 5 to 6 weeks training for World Championships, and then Pan Am Games were the weekend following. And I went to Road World Championships and got 2 5th places. Nothing to write home about. I was kind of upset actually, because it was my first World Championship, Road World Championship, that I didn't medal in. And it wasn't necessarily expected, but I expected it of myself.
Yeah, okay.
So I went to Toronto for Parapan, just kind of like, okay, maybe I'm not really ready to race, and race the road race, and somehow strategy, some training and luck, and won the road race, and immediately fell over because I was so exhausted, and then started crying because I'm also a happy crier. And so for me, that was a significant one too, because that was like, despite your hurdles, you can still do it. You can still come through on top.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So you've obviously been very successful with what you've done, but what would you say that success mean to you? Is that winning races, or is that doing what you love for a living, traveling, or is it something else?
Ooh, that's a good question, man. I think success is definitely living your best life. I think whatever it means to live your life epically or on some level fulfilling to you, I think is success. I think being happy, doing what makes you happy, despite what anybody else thinks or says, and being fully embracive of yourself and who you are as a person and what you love, I think is success. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good answer, I would say. You did good.
Thanks. Man, I'm going to have to think about that one too, because yeah, success is definitely happiness, I guess, for sure. Like success can bring happiness, but you can't truly be, when you're truly happy is successful.
Yeah, I agree with you. So you also face, we talked a bit about it, you talked a bit about it, you faced many challenges and setbacks through your career. First, the surgery when you were a kid, then again, the injury that forced you to stop rowing. Then, you talked a bit about it, the car accident. You really, you're truly a warrior, for sure. So at these difficult moments during your life, what is it that helped you to keep going and to overcome those challenges?
A handful of things. I think the first and foremost is I've always been strong-willed. I've always kind of had independence instilled in me, and I thank my parents a lot for that as well, because they nurtured it, and definitely pushed me to never give up and never let anybody decide that for me. But I think too, having people to rely on to help carry the burden, if you will, has helped a lot. When I retired from rowing, it was really hard. I wouldn't have been able to get through it without my parents, without my dad, and without the bike. So for me, having that support system, and even the times when riding bikes were hard, having the support system from my dad or my husband or my mom, even my brother, it helped get me through those moments for sure. And I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for those people helping me when I needed it, even when I didn't know I needed it. But at the same time, I'm so self-motivated. I'm so stubborn. I'll say stubborn. I still think stubborn's a good word, but I'm so stubborn in that, I don't want to give up till I'm ready to give up.
Okay.
So for me, I'll just keep pushing myself, even if it means pushing myself into the ground.
That's good. So you will say a mix of both of like having the right people around you and also your self-motivation.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I definitely think surrounding yourself with the right people makes huge difference, even if that amplifies certain traits within yourself to get through things. Yeah.
Okay. And did you at any time that you wanted to give up cycling or not at all?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I've had times. In 2016 I almost gave up cycling altogether. Like I told my husband, sell all my bikes. Like I don't want to do this anymore. There's no way I'm going to make it. Like just done. But it all happens in the heat of the moment when you're at your lowest, that you're like, I can't do it anymore. And all it takes is one voice, one person telling you, yeah, you can. And then actually believing, yeah, you're right, I can, to get you through it. Like for me, it was multiple people at that time, and other times when I wanted to give up cycling, it's been multiple people too. But like the second somebody says, no, you can do it, you're meant to do this, just give it a minute, just take a step back, just take a breather. And then it's like, yeah, I do like this. Like, I want to do this. I can do this.
Yeah, for sure. And looking at it now, I guess you took the right choice to not give up.
Yeah.
Because after that, you got 2 bronze medals and yeah.
Yeah. I kind of fall back on that story quite a bit because there are times when even in the local bike race, I'm thinking like, we're riding around basically in spandex diapers and going in circles. Like, why are we doing this? Why is this a thing? And then afterwards, it's just that exhilaration of pushing yourself, of trying to be the best you can be, of being fully aware of people around you and unpredictableness and chaos, that it's just excitement afterwards. And so on the days that I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to do this, I think about that time when I almost stopped doing it and then kept going because something inside me was like, no, this is what you want. Like, we're going to do this. And then it worked out for the best and I got 2 medals. And so I have them in a spot where I can always see them as like a reminder, like, despite however hard something gets, if you can just make it through, it's going to get so much better. It's going to be worth it. Like, to me, those medals it was worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for sure.
I mean, there's so much more, but like, I see that and I think like,
of course,
this is not letting anything stop you.
Of course. That's cool. So what advice would you give to people who are actually facing adversity right now and that may feel like there is no way to past it?
Oh, another good question. I feel like there's so much I would want to say to give advice, but I think for me, the biggest piece of advice I would give first is to ask for help. I definitely was among the camp that did not ask for help when I needed it and just kind of tried to struggle through it and get it on my own. And then have had people push their help on me in good ways. Like my husband got me a professional bike fit when he realized that I was in pain all the time and said I didn't have to be. And so got a bike fit and stopped having so much knee pain, and then started realizing like, wow, if I had asked for help a while ago, like I would have been in less pain way sooner. So I started asking for help more. And a lot of times, some of the stuff that I struggle with, like if I ask a certain person, they'll be like, oh yeah, I know how to handle that. Like I've done it before. I've been there. Like so many people go through not necessarily the same thing, but they go through so much adversity in their lives that chances are somebody that you ask will have advice to help. And so for me, I think the biggest advice I would give is to definitely ask for help, to know without a doubt that it makes you stronger. I think bad days are bound for everyone, and I think that good days are bound for everyone, and you can't have the good days without experiencing the bad days. You can't appreciate the good days without the bad. So yeah, I think that for me, I've learned to kind of embrace the hardship as a challenge to overcome that hardship, that adversity, and be a stronger person because of it.
And then I'm sure you appreciate better the better moment and the highest moment because you know that you had those low moments before.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think every good moment has been well appreciated because of low moments. Like 2015, that Para Pan Am medal was, I celebrated that more than anything, and I celebrated it for a while because I had a low moment. Like, I knew how hard it was for me to get there, how many people literally pushed me on bike rides so that I wouldn't get dropped from the bike ride to train for that world championship and those games. Like,
yeah,
you just one step at a time, one pedal stroke at a time.
Yeah, of course. And that's what is like cool to talk about it, because sometimes like people are just gonna watch on TV and then they don't know that maybe like not even a year ago you had a car accident, you know?
Right.
Right. So it can look like, oh, it's easy, like, but it's actually not.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that it's harder too, because I think that with social media and just basically seeing highlight reels and happy moments, people don't realize everyone goes through something. Literally everyone goes through adversity.
Of course. Yeah, it's true that social media made it more difficult to see or maybe to understand that, especially for the young generation. I mean, I have my sister and I have to tell her that, it's not the reality. People are not always happy like you can see on Instagram. So
Right.
So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think people, it's good too, like the podcast you guys are doing. Like it's nice to have people like you that are encouraging all facets of it and showing that there is some adversity and there is some struggle and there is perseverance and there's strength and courage and bravery. And for me, like,
thank you.
That shows so much to see that other athletes, other people, we all are similar in that sense, and we can use that as inspiration to get through our own stuff. Like, I have things that are struggling sometimes, but then I think,
of course,
like, I'm not the only one, and it's nice to know you're not the only one.
Yeah, for sure.
So thank you.
For sure. No, of course, it's a pleasure. So growing up and starting to play sport competitively, did you have like a biggest inspiration or motivation you were looking up to?
Not really. That sounds really bad, but I guess for me, I wanted to be strong. I wanted my dad and his friends to be proud of me and think I was a good cyclist and mountain biker and then a good rower. And then my brother is 9 years younger than me, and by the time I was rowing, he was old enough to kind of be influenced by me. And so for me, my role model kind of became him. Okay. So I guess I looked up to my little brother because he was always so determined and a really good athlete and an all-around, like just an all-American. And he loved baseball since he was 5 years old, played it all the time, brought a glove everywhere. And he kind of showed me like the love that you could have for a sport and how you just own it. And he kind of always looked up to me. And for me, I wanted to be a good role model for him.
Okay.
So I guess by looking up to him, I was a better athlete in person.
Okay. That's cool. That's cool. And is that something that still like motivate you today or inspire you?
I think
Looking
so.
at your
Yeah,
brother.
yeah, I think so. I definitely want my family, my mom and my dad and my brother to be proud of me. I want my husband to be proud of me. I want the people that support me to be proud of me, my coach, my sports psych, my sponsors. Like, I want people to be proud and to like have faith in their belief in me.
Of course.
But yeah, I think for sure I try to be a role model for him. I think I definitely translate that to being a role model for the kids that I'm a mentor to throughout Southern California and the schools that I work with, the videos that I send to teachers to share with their students. I definitely want to be somebody that they look up to.
Okay, for sure. That's cool. So it's clear that sport have always been a part of your life. But looking at it now, what impact would you say that sport, cycling, but also rowing has had on your life, and what has it taught you?
Good questions. For me, sport has definitely been a means for strength, for power. I feel like when I'm on the bike, I don't want to say normal because that's not the right word, but for me, it's almost like I'm normal. Like I don't have a disability. I'm on an equal playing field, and then it's my talents showcased when I'm riding. So for me, sport is definitely empowerment. It makes me feel stronger off the bike. Also, like if I can do that, if I can push myself to go through my max heart rate and keep going, and if I can push myself to go up a hill and all of this stuff, then I can also push myself off the bike to be a better person, to do better. So for me, sport has taught that. It's taught discipline. It's taught responsibility. It's taught camaraderie. Like my friends, all of my friends are cyclists. Majority of my friends are cyclists.
Yeah.
Like it's just taught me that there's definitely more to myself and more to life in general. It's taught me to be happy. It's taught me to pursue things that make me happy. It's taught me to really just do the things that I love and inspire people to do the things that they love and not be so judgmental on it.
Okay. And how important, like you talk a bit about kids, and how important is it for you that kids and kids with disability as well have the opportunity to actually play sport?
I think it's super important. I definitely love paying it forward. I love sharing my story. I love encouraging younger generations to partake in sport. I think there's a lot to be learned from it. Self-awareness, self-acceptance, maturity, discipline, dedication, motivation. Like there's so many positive attributes of being an athlete, even if it's only for a little bit of time, that I definitely encourage younger generations to partake in sport. And I think it's even more important for younger generations with disabilities to partake in sport too, because a lot of times they don't see it. They don't see that there's that opportunity for them. I didn't even know about paracycling or parasport until I was 26. And so I think that if an athlete or if a person that has a disability can learn that sooner and still see that they can be an athlete, still see that they can do stuff with their life, that they're not confined to some adversity or some hardship, then it's all the better, for sure.
Of course. And you talk a bit about it, that you spend time to visiting school in LA, about like your story. How important is it for you to be able to do this?
Super important. I love giving my time in that sense. I definitely like to volunteer. I try to. with how much I'm training and how time consuming that is, it's hard to have certain opportunities to volunteer.
Of course.
So for me, being able to go to schools and encouraging kids to even do their homework on time is important to me. I definitely, like, I had such great parents, have such great parents. Like, I had such great parents growing up, and they're still great. I still love them. Hi, Mom and Dad, if you're listening. But they were there for me when I was younger. They were my rocks. Like, they helped me through so much. I wouldn't be half the person I am today if it wasn't for them. And even as I got older, I've had such great people in my life that if I can be that person for the next generation, for somebody who's 7 or 8 right now, or even 16, like,
Yeah.
that means so much to me that I will always give my time to go to a school and talk to people, to go to a swim practice and talk to the swim team. Like, if I could do it more, I would.
Yeah, for sure. But I bet you have a busy schedule as well.
Yeah, and now with all of this stuff, there's not many opportunities to go into the schools.
That's true. That's true. So would you say that you see yourself as a role model?
I hope so. I think so. I definitely want to be a positive role model, and I want to be somebody that's approachable and real, and somebody that people can look up to and not think that they can't attain it. Like, I think that there are some athletes that are just so amazingly good and amazingly, like, huge that almost feels unattainable. Like Serena Williams, I love her. She's amazing. But at the same time, like, there's no way I could be that good of a tennis player. Like, I want to be that role model that people definitely aspire to be also. Not saying that she isn't, because God, if I could be the role model she was, like half the role model she is, I feel pretty successful in that sense.
Okay. So I also understand that you work as a content coordinator for an organization called Angel City Sports, which provide opportunities for kids and adults with disability to learn and train a variety of sport in California. So when and how did you get involved with them?
So I've kind of been involved with them in some way or another since I got back from the Paralympic Games in 2016. But they don't have cycling as a sport that the young kids, I guess anybody, any age, because it's really for any age, but they never really got cycling into it just because of equipment demands and the money to get all of the supplies. So it's kind of been off and on, going to games, meeting people. And then this year with COVID happening, their Angel City Games, which is put on every summer, was canceled, the in-person one. So they decided to do a virtual Angel City Games for the summer, and all of which can still be accessed. Like, there's still, people can still watch all of the recaps from all the sessions. But it gave me an opportunity to get involved on the staff side and help with their social media and their graphics leading up to it. So I got to have a little part in that as well, which was super fun, because for me, that's getting to see all those athletes they're amazing. Like, there are so many amazing people that, like, you have a disability and you just go to something that Angel City Sports puts on and you don't see it. Everybody's just smiling, having a good time, encouraging each other. Like,
that's amazing.
Oh, it's so fun. It's so refreshing too. Okay.
So how important would you say is the work that Angel City Sport does?
I think it's huge. I think if there were more organizations like them throughout the country, para sport would be more known in the U.S. and not so taboo, if you will.
Okay.
Like, you go to other countries and people are watching the paracycling races. They know about it. There's countries that have days at school where students get to find out about parasport. If we could get that in the US, all of those younger generations would be so further along. All of the veterans that come home with some sort of disability from sacrificing themselves to protect our country would have something to look forward to. Like, there's just so much positivity that comes from it that it's huge. And if there was just more, if there were more Angel City sports throughout the country, like, I think we would be in a better place. I think we would definitely be more compassionate, for sure. Okay,
for sure. So Angel City Sport is only in LA, or there is?
Yeah, they have a chapter, I think, in Oregon, or there's like starting to develop something there. But people from all over the country can come. And there's other organizations too that are throughout the country as well. But for me, it's LA, like Angel City Sports is so close to where I am that they're the most prominent for me. And they put on that games every year that gets so many people out. That's just so fun to watch. Okay.
That's awesome. So for the people listening who would like to know more about it or contribute, like, where can they do that? Is that like they have a website?
Yes, so they have a website. It's called angelcitysports.org. Okay. You can also follow them on Instagram at Angel City Sports, and Facebook too. But they post on all three of those. I think Instagram is more frequent, so you get more information that way.
Perfect. So we'll put all the link in the description. So perfect.
Cool.
So you recently also did an interview with Paracycling magazine talking about the balance of diet and eating things that both fuel yourself and also makes you happy. How is that important, that topic, for you within sport, and how do you manage to find that balance?
I think it's twofold. I think that one of them is having balance in life in general, like being disciplined for sure. But I think also, like, you have to have some flexibility, some ability to adapt. So for me, it's all about the balance. Like, if I'm doing too much of this and I'm not taking care of myself, then I've started to go all over the place, and then I can't focus on what I was supposed to be focusing on. So for me, that balance is important throughout all aspects. And one of the ways that I remember that is through food. But at the same time, I think it's also important, especially for female athletes, to not get so caught up on the number on the scale and not so caught up on their body image. Because I think that women, including myself, like, I had self-diagnosed eating disorders when I was rowing. I think for women, it's so easy to fall prey to thinking they're not good enough because they don't look a certain way, because they're not a number on the scale. So for me, it's important that that's not the mindset, that the mindset is strength and nutrition and fuel to be stronger. So I think that that's important to kind of establish, like, I need to eat this because it's nutritious for me and it's a healthy lifestyle and it's helping me be a better athlete, but I can also eat this. Like, it's not off the table. It's still there. Like, I still can if I want it.
Of course. And also, we talked a bit about Instagram, but also the impact on Instagram and on women as well, and young women, about the body image is not really good as well. So it's nice to have like a reminder sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that there are a lot of ways that anyone, really, male or female, can fall prey to the negative aspects of things, and just to keep that balance in mind, even if it's something as simple as, I like coffee, so I'm going to have 2 cups of coffee in the morning instead of 1. Just something that reminds them that, like, this is your life. You only have one of them. Don't have any regrets. If you want a scoop of ice cream, have the scoop of ice cream. Like, it's not gonna hurt you. Be happy.
For sure.
For
sure. So we come back to what we talked a bit about before, and happiness. So.
Yep. Yeah. I think at the end of the day, that's what I want to remember my life. That I was just happy.
So after speaking to other professional athletes on the first season of the podcast about how weird 2020 has been, we understand that it's especially been a difficult year mentally. I mean, that's what most of the athletes have told us. So how has that been for you to keep up with your training without really having any race coming up in the near future?
I think I'm the abnormality. I've actually kind of liked the downtime that this year has brought. The ability to ride my bike and just ride my bike and not have anything that I'm specifically training for has made me fall in love with it more. Okay. I've gotten to do things with my husband, like 100-mile rides on Sundays that I probably wouldn't have if I was training for Tokyo. That I know I wouldn't have, but I got to be a tourist. I got to ride to the Hollywood sign and finally see the Hollywood sign for the first time. And so it almost made it more fun for me, and it gave me time to really work on the mental side of things, which only translates to being a better athlete. So for me, 2020 has been a year that has been challenging, yes, very challenging, but at the same time has made me a better person as a result, and hopefully has prepared me for whatever 2021 brings.
Yeah, for sure. That's great to hear. That's great. So moving forward, next year there is obviously Tokyo 2021. What are your goals, both in the short term, so for next year, but also in the long term? I saw on your Instagram that you post a picture with a t-shirt LA 2028. So is that something that you have in mind as well?
Yes, yeah. 2028 definitely is my super long-term goal. Mostly because it's my backyard and home country, and the ability for all of my family and friends to come watch and see it in person just holds such a dear place in my heart that I'm striving to make it there. And I know life is super unpredictable. If anything this year has taught me, life is super unpredictable. So I want to go to 2028. If it happens, it'll be amazing. Short term, I want to make the Tokyo team, just baby steps, really. I want to make the team, and then I want to do really well there. I want to put all of my training to the test and see where I stack up, and hopefully that means more hardware. And just embrace the moment. I think for me, the biggest goal I have for 2021 is to just live in the moment more, to just appreciate the moments, good or bad, to just be very mindful of that and successful in that, so that I can enjoy riding my bike and enjoy racing and go to Tokyo and have fun there too.
Of course. So of course you're focusing a lot into your career right now, but have you already thought about what you like to do whenever you stop competing?
Yes, and that's the problem. I have too many things I like to do. There are way too many things, but for me, it definitely has to be something creative. I'm a very creative person. So I like photography and graphic design and all that stuff, and I've kind of gotten to do that with Angel City Sports, which has been really nice and kind of showing me what it could be like once I do retire, which hopefully isn't for a while. But yeah, I haven't narrowed it down yet. I think I'm just too busy having fun riding my bike.
Of course. I can imagine.
But yeah. And then at the same time, I like numbers too. I got a master's in accounting I just graduated at the beginning of this year even. So
okay.
doing something with that would be nice also to use my degree.
So you have many cards that you can pick at.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm all over the place.
And that's awesome too.
Yeah. I think that's the beauty of life, just letting it come as it comes and seeing where the road takes me.
Yeah, being open-minded to new thing and
Exactly.
so the purpose of this podcast is to share the story of professional athlete, to show that everyone's journey is different and that there is more to success than just the medal and the awards. So if you could give one piece of advice to the people who are listening to this episode and that have big dreams but don't know how to reach them, what will it be?
Always keep an open mind. Be a sponge. Like, no matter how long you've been doing a sport, there is always something that you can learn. And you're only going to learn that if you keep an open mind and keep the ability to take constructive feedback, to take to be able to take something that somebody has to say, even if you don't want to hear it, and find a way to translate that to the sport, I think is huge.
Okay. Pretty good one, I would say.
No, thanks.
So if people want to follow you after this episode and want to know more about you, where can they do that?
If people want to follow me and learn more about me, that would be awesome first and foremost. My Instagram social media handle for Facebook and Twitter too is Sammy Cranks, Sammy Sammie Cranks. And then I also have a website, also sammycranks.com, but I'm most active on Instagram, actually. So that would probably be the best spot.
Okay, sounds good. So we will put all of the link here in the description of the podcast, of course. So thank you so much for coming to our podcast, Samantha. It's been really a pleasure and you're truly a big inspiration. So thank you so much again. And we wish you best of luck for your training and with the competition in your future.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. And I'm very honored that you guys wanted to have me be a part of it. It's very fun.
Of course. Thank you.